Welcome to Blonde Cards and Crafts. Let's make something together. Hello crafters, welcome to my channel if you're new here, and welcome back if you're a subscriber. I'm going to be using the Papercraft Society Box number 38 for my card today. This is Claire Rowlands, who is Daisy Mae, and she's the designer of this box. We get loads of products in the box, and I'll leave a link down below to my unboxing if you'd like to see what came in the kit. We also get information regarding downloading our pattern papers, and it comes inside the booklet. You can also access the downloadables through the Facebook group as well as on the Craft World HQ website. So that's the housekeeping done. I want to show you the papers that I have downloaded. So these are my papers that I have downloaded. You get a sheet with some of the images, and I love these. I printed this off twice. So you get all these little images of the polar bear on the sleigh. We also get some images of this little polar bear. He's at the edge of the pond saying hello to a little fish who's popping his head up. Actually, it's a hole in the pond and he's popping his head up. And then this little one of the polar bear up on a box, and there's a cute little mouse there with a little gift in his hand. So you can see there, I printed them all out. I have the Xerox Phaser 6510. It means nothing to me. The hubby is the techno guy in this house, but it will print up everything from 220 GSM to 300 GSM, and just your any size paper in between. I have no problem. I just load up my printer with whatever paper I want to use, and it just feeds it through. So that's what I use for that, for those of you who are interested. And the papers, I love the papers. They're a larger size. I know you can scale it down so it'll print onto A5 size, and then you could have two of those on your page if you wanted to have the smaller images. I quite like the larger images because I do larger cards, but I'm waiting on hubby to do a tutorial with me showing me how I can scale it down. I haven't figured that out yet, but because I printed the images on the A4 page, when I took the dies that came for the stamped images, and these are the same as the stamped images that come in the kit, the die worked perfectly. So I don't know how I worked it, but it did. Anyway, that's the housekeeping done. There's our downloaded papers. I've everything ready to go. Let's bring in card number 1. So these are the things that I'm going to use for my first card. I have a card base which measures 5 by 7. If you're making one yourself, then you'll need a piece of 10 by 7 and score it at 5, and that'll give you a 5 by 7 card base. Onto that, I have a piece of cardstock from my stash. This is a piece of 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, and it'll sit on there. Next, I have a piece of the pattern paper. This is one I've printed off myself. This piece is a little bit smaller than 4 3/4. It's actually 4 5/8, and it's 6 5/8. So it'll just give us a little border going all around there. Now, on this paper, you can see I've done some inking. I have taken this. This is one of the stencils that we got in last month's box, number 37. It's the Made to Surprise box. And what I've done is I've used the hills that are on this stencil. I've taken some ink from my stash, and I have done some ink blending. And I'm going to go through that with you shortly. I've also taken this piece of cardstock as well. Now, this measures... It's 4 5/8 in width, and it is about 2.5 inches in height. So what I did with this is I just took my scissors and I cut, you know, to look like hills in the background. It's going to sit on top of our pattern paper like so. And then you can see where I have the image of snowy banks behind this one. I've also taken the little stamp that came in the set, this one here. It's this one in the stamp set. And I have used that then to stamp just on this to give the image of, you know, little watermarks, or I think you can use it as falling snow, but I thought it would look good on this piece. The reason for that is because I have this piece that I die cut out. This is one of the printable ones now. I didn't colour this in myself. I'm not that good. And I used the die in the kit to die cut this piece out, which I have here. So this is the die here that die cuts this piece out. And what I've done is I've just ink blended a little around the bottom of this as well. I've taken a die from my stash. Now this is one of the creative nestables. It's the oval dies and it's a set of 20. And I've taken one of these dies here because I wanted to simulate a little pond. So I die cut out a white piece, and again using the stencil I just stenciled onto that using some of my blue ink, and again using that little stamp to stamp the images that's on this. And I hope my camera is focusing for you so you can see it. It's very pale. The ink I've used for this is a Harmony Spectrum Noir baby blue ink, and it gave this lovely subtle colour. Because snow is white, but snow isn't actually white, it has shades. And I know you can go with the grey tones, but I wanted to go for the white tones with this. So I'm going to have this piece up on some foam tape, and then I'm going to sit my little pond on top. Then I'm going to take this little piece here, and where you can see I have stenciled there, I'm going to kind of line them up so it looks like that. So it'll look like our little bear is on the pond and the little fish has popped up to see him. Now I've also got 2 strips. This strip is the same width as my blue cardstock, and it's 3/4 of an inch wide, and then my pattern paper is the same width as my pattern paper here, and it's 1/2 inch wide. I did a little bit of ink blending around the pattern paper too, and this is going to go inside to decorate the inside of our card. I'm also going to take the image on the stamp set, this image here, and I'm going to stamp it very lightly inside, and I'll stamp a sentiment inside. Now for my sentiments inside, we didn't get any sentiments on the stamp set other than this large piece, and we did get the word frosty here as well, but I'm not going to use either of those. I do have a stamp set here from it's the Box 36 by Sasha Reed, and I think what I'll do is stamp the Merry Christmas out here using this, and then the Dreaming of a White Christmas inside. And they'll be our sentiments for the inside and outside of our card. So now what I'm going to do is do some ink blending with you, and I have a little snowbank here, and I'm going to show you exactly how I did my inking on this piece as well as this piece on this. And I've taken some of my ink and I have gone around the edge and along here, but I want to darken this area up a little bit, so we'll do that together. I just thought it would be better for time if I had this done already rather than speeding through it. So let's go ahead now and do some ink blending. So I'm all set up now to do some ink blending. I have taken an A4 white sheet of cardstock and I have laminated it, and then you'll see on the back of it here, let me just show you, I've taken one of these non-slip mats that you can use in a workshop or in your kitchen under a counter boards, and I've put that on the back, so this will stop my mat from sliding, and I find that really helpful. And then you can wipe off the laminated coating on the top. I've also done that for this little piece of cardstock. I have a larger piece of the non-slip on the back, and then on the front I have a piece here. What I use this for is for putting down my ink pads and the lid. Sometimes I find when you put the lids down on the desk it leaves ink marks, so I just find this handy for wiping and cleaning up. Craftstash do mats that you can use for ink blending on, but you know, ever the frugal crafter, I've made my own. So let's start off first by inking onto this piece here. So what I did was I took my blending brush and I have just swirled it around there like that, and I've gone around the edge. So it kind of goes on a little bit dark. The inking that I have done on the paper there and on the white card that I showed you earlier, I did that all yesterday evening, so it had dried, and I find with the Harmony inks they do lighten and blend better as they dry. So I'll just go around the edge of that, and I'm just turning my card as I'm blending. So the brush is kind of staying in the one position, and I'm just moving the cardstock around as I do it. And you can tap your brush in, or you can rub it across the pad, whatever works best for you. So, and then I'm just going to again bring it in. I want the edge to be darker, but I want it as it's coming out to be lighter. So I'm kind of working around the edge first, and I can get the darkened look there. And I kind of like the corners to be a little bit darker as well, but then I want the rest of it to blend out so it's nice and light. So I'm pressing down heavily here with my finger, and then as I'm kind of pulling in to the white of the cardstock, I'm easing off the pressure. So I'm heavy the pressure here and then ease off as I move in. So I'll just bring it across this way, and then what I will do is I'm going to bring over now the stencil, and then I'll just use the edges of this. Now you can take, if you have some acetate in your stash, you could take some acetate and you could cut your own wavy lines out of your acetate if you don't have a stencil for doing this. That's what I used to do. I used to take 300 GSM cardstock as well, and I used to use that. And then we'll blend on this, and again I'm kind of adding a little pressure as I go along the edge and then lifting the pressure, and I'm not going to leave the white. I'm going to blend into it. So you can see there now, this is darker than this and this is darker than this, and then you can always kind of turn your stencil around to get you know, a different kind of wave, because you know when snow is falling and the wind is blowing, you have drifts of snow. So that's what I want this to look like, as if there's snow drifts or snow banks in the background. And then I can come here to the bottom again and I can blend up to this. Lovely. So I'm happy with that. I can then take my little falling snow image and I can stamp that down. Now if your ink is dark and you want it lighter, you can, on a scrap of paper, stamp off on that and then stamp on your piece, and it will lighten the ink for you. But I don't mind if the image is dark on this one. And remember, when we stamp off as well, it gives it a nice look. It looks like you've cut it from a larger sheet down to a smaller sheet. So I'm happy now with the look of that. I'll pop that there, and I'm happy with my stencil. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to this. Now you can see here what I did was, again, I took the edges and I just put them down onto the paper, and then came along with my brush and blended onto that, and then moved it along and turned it around. So I had this kind of look. Blended again, then turned this around. And you can kind of, you know, do a little bit of ink blending and stop, and then move your stencil over and continue on, because you don't want the same hills the whole way down. So you can kind of tilt them and move them along and join them up, kind of thing. And that's what I've done there. I've also ink blended from here up along and around, but I want this to be a little bit darker than what I have going on here. I want it to look as, you know, as if there's cloudy sky up there. So you could use grays, you could use blues, whatever colors you like. I'm going to go, I have some Versafine inks here, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Twilight ink and I'm going to use my brush, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some ink on there, and then I'm very lightly, because this is a much darker color, I'm very lightly going to kiss the edge of my card. And what this will do is it'll help define the edge of it, especially against the blue that we're going to use for the matte layer. So I'll go around there, and I know I don't need to go the whole way down, because we'll have our little hills in the background there. And then once I've that done, then I can come in a little bit more and darken that up. And then I like sometimes to start in the corners, because I don't mind if my corners are heavier than the rest along. And go forward and come back, because the bristles will have, you know, when you're going this way, it's taking the ink off the bristles, and then when you come back the other way, it's taking the ink off the bristles. So we'll move down along the card, just doing the edge, and then as I'm coming back up, I'm pressing again a little bit heavier. I'm going to speed everything up now and continue with blending my panel. I'm going back over my blending and darkening it, because it's easier to add ink than it is to take it off. So I like to build up on my colour. I'm going to take the panel that'll be at the front down at the bottom, and I'll blend around the three sides of that. And then the one we did together, really this one only needs to be blended on each side. It doesn't need to be done across the bottom, but I've done it across the three. So, and that'll fit then perfectly behind, and I'll have two nice layers then for the front of the card. Very happy with that. So next what I want to do is have a look now at my little pond, and that's going to sit over there like so. And then we have our little bear and our fish, and that will sit on there like so. So we've not lots of layers going on there, you know, which will give depth and definition, and we can make it as, you know, as deep, or we can just stick the layers down as they are, and we can have it as, you know, it depends on if you have to pay extra for postage. So I like to add dimension to my cards, so I put foam tape between, but it's up to yourself, you don't have to. So I like that now. I think I'm going to go with that. Before I do anything, I'm going to stamp my Merry Christmas or my sentiment in here. I might also take my little snow stamp as well, and just stamp a couple up here in the darker shades, and then I can come back and stamp more when I've done my sentiment. And don't forget, we can do some second generation stamping of this as well by stamping off. So if you stamp off and then stamp on, it'll be lighter. I find it's better to actually do that on some you know, computer paper or something like that. So I'm happy with that now. I got a little ink on my fingers, so the next thing I'm going to do is clean that off. So I've got my Versafine Clair Twilight ink. I'm again going to use that. I've got my Merry Christmas set up in my stamping platform. I'm going to ink that up. And then press it down. You could emboss this using embossing powders if you liked, but I'm not going to. I think it'll be nice just as it is. So there's our Merry Christmas. We'll go over the Merry again. There might be a little bit of residue or something on the stamp because I haven't used that one. So it could just be there was a bit of residue, but it printed up perfectly. And I've kind of set the Merry at a jaunty angle, as I like to say, just to be different rather than it's straight, you know. So I think that's cute. I'm happy with that. So now let's go ahead and assemble our card. I'm going to speed up now for this part because it's basically assembly of everything we have here to put together. So I'll put my matte layer down first onto my card base, and then I'll add my Merry Christmas panel. Now, I like to live life dangerously. I'll happily finish a card, come to the point where I need to do inside, and then be like, oh yeah, I need to do inside. So don't do as I do as I say. Before you start putting all your layers down, especially if you have a bit of bulk, why not pop out your platform and stamp your inside? I didn't do that, but it came out perfect for me. I really was lucky, to be honest. But I mean, yeah, so do as I say, not as I do. If you're any bit nervous at all about stamping and using a stamping block or anything like that, then, you know, do it that way. But I find I have the bigger Misty, and I find that my card will fit in there anyway and I can stamp away. So yeah. So I have all my layers down. I'm putting my strip on the inside now, and then we're going to stamp our image that came in the stamp set. Now I had thought about putting it in the middle, and I decided no, I'm going to put it down near the bottom. So again, I'm using the Spectrum Noir Harmony, the baby blue. This colour is what we've used throughout, along with the Versafine Clair Twilight. So once I have my image stamped down, it's nice and faint. Again, using this ink, I'm going to do my snowflakes dotted around. Then I'll take my Twilight ink and I'll stamp down my sentiment that's inside, and that's Dreaming of a White Christmas. I thought that was quite fitting, seeing as it's very kind of snowy kind of looking card. I'm going to use my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen around the outside where we have the line for our snowdrifts, etc., and on my fish. To finish the card, I'm taking my Made to Surprise accent glaze. I have my little handmade pin that I have in there, and I'm going to dot that around on the card, just on the little fish, the bear's nose, his eyes, the blades of his skates. And I found with the accent glaze, the Made to Surprise and the Papercraft Society one, if you get the boxes, we got a bottle in one of our kits. I found they were a little thick, and having spoken to Sam from Mixed Up Crafts, she said you can add a couple of drops of water into the glaze, give it a good shake, and it'll help thin it out. So I did that one drop at a time. So I added a drop, gave it a shake, tried it until I got the consistency I liked, which was similar to glossy accents. So there we go. There is our card. It is a simple card, but I have to say I love it. We have our lovely sentiment inside, and I think this is a smashing card using the products that came inside the wonderful Papercraft Society box number 38. If you enjoyed my video, you might consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're a subscriber, thanks for subscribing. And if not, you might click on that bell icon. That way you'll be notified the next time I post a new video. And I will be posting another one using this fabulous kit by Claire Rowlands, otherwise known as Daisy Mae. So that's it. Here is some images of the card we've made. Until next time, folks, stay safe, take care, and bye for now. Bye.